Joining me now is acting CEO for the U.S. Agency for Global Media, Kari Lake. It's always a pleasure when you come on and I get to spend a few minutes with you, because you and I used to do a lot of work together. I used to see you almost on a weekly basis.
That's right.
And now that you,
we both left the fake news because we were fed up with it right around the same time and connected. That's how we became friends, because we both kind of said, can you believe what's happening inside these newsrooms across America?
Yeah, it's crazy. Okay, I'm glad you're having on you now that you have a major role over at VOA. You had to oversight, you looked at that organization, you've made some changes. Get us up to date at what we're seeing at Voices of America and some of the things that you've done there.
Well, Voice of America is one of the outlets under U.S. Agency for Global Media. U.S. Agency for Global Media is an agency that oversees international broadcasting for the United States government. And sadly, it's gone, I would say woke, but it's gone in many cases anti-American. So we're supposed to be putting out, Voice of America is, the story of America, telling the story of America to an international audience. And over the last many years, couple of decades, they've turned to, in many cases, telling an anti-American story. And part of the reason is because they've brought in and hired people from other countries who don't have an understanding of our culture. Maybe they don't even like America. And they've been led by people over the years who are anti-American. And when I came into the role in late February, actually early March, President Trump, about mid-March, put out an executive order telling us to basically scale back this agency to its statutory minimum. So that means shrink it down to its statutory minimum. What is required by law? Do that, but nothing more. So I've been kind of in a doge mode, bringing and scaling things back at Voice of America. We've learned that there is a ton of corruption, that rather than telling America's story in some of the languages, for example, in the Mandarin language, the VOA management over the years have been going to the embassy, the Chinese embassy, talking to CCP leaders and getting their opinion on how we should be covering China, which is absolutely absurd. In the meantime, Brian, someone like me who's a top manager there doesn't have any editorial say in what we're covering. So if they were to put out anti-American stories, I can't pick up the phone and say, hey, what are you guys doing? Shape up. We should be putting out an American story telling the true story of America, because they put up an editorial firewall. So it's a broken agency. The president has called for it to be eliminated starting in next fiscal year, and we're working to put forth the president's agenda.
Well, I can say this, the individuals I used to see in the briefing room, they are no longer there. So to your point, they have found other jobs. Another person that is no longer there is a gentleman named Seth Jason. He was arrested for threatening MTG. Now, this was, I guess, an investigation that went on for quite some time. If our viewers might have missed that, Kari, fill us in on this individual that made threats coming out of the VOA office, which is insane. Tell us more.
Well, I'll just tell you what I know from the U.S. Attorney's Office under Gene Pirro, and with the information they've put out and the information that I've received, because there was an investigation ongoing and I was aware of it and actually mentioned it during my congressional hearing. It was so disturbing. I learned one day that the Capitol Police had been in our building investigating a potential crime, and then I learned more about it and learned that over the course of 15 months, phone calls coming from the Voice of America headquarters were going out with death threats being spoken to members of Marjorie Taylor Greene, the great congressman from Georgia, to her family, and her staff and their families. So death threats were going out from Voice of America. This was happening over the course of 15 months. They traced the phone number back to the building, and then they were able to have apparently other people listen to that voice, and other workers at Voice of America recognize the voice. My question is, why did didn't they solve this case earlier? If this was happening for 15 months, my goodness, while I'm glad it's been solved now, but if they were able to trace the number back so easily to Voice of America and go in there and just play the recordings of what this person said, which is just heinous death threats, and quickly they were able to learn who it was, I wish it would have been a case closed earlier. Now he's been charged with several federal crimes. He's facing up to close to 30 years in federal prison if found guilty. And so I hope that if he is found guilty, they throw the book at him. We can't have threats like this being made, assassination threats. It's domestic terrorism, and I think they should charge him as such.
Yeah, real quickly, let's throw this SOT number 4. This is Judge Janine really going after this individual. Take a listen.
The threat to murder, have your family murdered as well as yourself, is debilitating for a lot of people. And they create a climate of fear, as well as disrupting one's ability to actually perform their duties. So my message today should be loud and clear. This behavior is a crime. You threaten a public official, and you'll face the full force of the law crushing down on you.
Yes, yeah. I'm all for that. Yeah. I want the full force of the law crushing down. If this person is guilty, they deserve to be behind bars for what could end up being the rest of his life. I think he's in his 60s, so we'll find out. But of course, he deserves due process, and he will get that, and we'll see what happens. It's just, but it tells you a lot, Brian, that was the mood in a newsroom, and it's a typical mood in the newsroom. Most newsrooms have 98% of the people working there are of liberal, philosophical, political leanings or leftist leanings, and that's what we apparently got with the person making that phone call. Now, I reached out to the FBI and I asked them if they would look into the phone numbers that have been going out for all of the swatting incidents that went out to Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. I know she was the victim of numerous swatting incidents, which are absolutely horrifying. I've asked them to look at if any of the phone numbers in those swatting incidents have come from Voice of America, and I hope that they're on it. The FBI told me they would look into that.
Okay, I got about 10 seconds left, but you can go a little bit longer. Should we look at every single foreign media outlet that has access to the White House grounds to make sure that we don't have any foreign agents acting like media that have access to our briefing room and our Oval Office? Last word.
That's been my concern when I got in here. We've had many national security issues. Hundreds of people who were vetted through our agency have gone missing in America and possibly inside the federal government. Some of them who have access to top secret classified information, and they have all of the ID cards to get into federal buildings. It is a national security risk. We've stopped the use of J-1 visas, which were being abused at U.S. Agency for Global Media to bring people in from hostile countries that are hostile to America, to bring them in to be journalists and cover America. That's not how you cover America. You hire Americans to cover this great country, and we're going to see to it that that's how it's being done. So I wish we had more time to talk. I could talk your ears off, Brian, but we'll have to do it again. There's a lot happening at this agency. Of course, these judges who are playing activists are trying to prevent us from effectuating the president's executive order and his agenda, and we're going to continue to fight for Article 2 powers for the president, and we're fighting for the American taxpayer who's being ripped off at this agency and many others across the federal government.
You're doing amazing work. There is no doubt. America First policies also mean, Kari, America Media First. Thank you so much for joining us, the great Kari Lake. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.